this makes reckless investing more likely. If the federal government is backstopping your bank, you're not going to be choosing to go somewhere which is safer. So you put it in the banks which offer you the most rewards. The way that they offer you the most rewards is by doing the most risky investments. And they know that they're backstopped by the federal government, so that risky investments are less risky.
Welcome to The Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering this week and where the story's going next. I'm Sarah Westwood, and I'm here today with Editor-in-Chief Hugo Gurdon. And Hugo, continuing this week, the Biden administration is simultaneously trying to argue that the banking system is completely stable, no risks at all, but also that the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank poses a systemic risk, and that's why it needed to be bailed out. You know, how can they be arguing both of these things at once?
Well, they have to say that things are secure. They want to try and reassure. In fact, the bailout of SVB and the rhetoric about the banking system being stable are both serving the same purpose. They don't want the contagion, as they call it, to spread. They don't want people withdrawing their deposits and putting more and more banks at risk. But in fact, it's arguable that they have made the banking system less stable by the actions that they've taken, because the law was that the federal government would backstop deposits up to $250,000. But in a nanosecond, the Biden administration, the Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, decided that the risk was such that they needed to guarantee all deposits. That at least is the implicit, the implication of the rescue at SVB, because depositors who had much more money than that are being entirely made good. That means that, you know, there is implicitly the $17 trillion that Americans have deposited in banks is all backstopped by the federal government, and you know the Fed actually only has about half that amount of money. Of course, this makes reckless investing more likely. If the federal government is backstopping your bank, you're not going to be choosing to go somewhere which is safer. So you put it in the banks which offer you the most rewards. The way that they offer you the most rewards is by doing the most risky investments. And they know that they're backstopped by the federal government, so that risky investments are less risky. So you know, this week has really rattled a lot of people about the extent to which Washington, the federal government, and that ultimately the citizens of the country, the taxpayers of the country, have been put on the hook for stabilizing the bank system.
Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg is preparing to bring a potential indictment against Donald Trump. So first of all, what do you think of the strength of that case based on the facts that we know so far? And then what do you think of Alvin Bragg's credibility as a prosecutor?
It looks like a real stretch. We obviously have to wait to see the indictment. But it appears that the falsification of the books to cover up the $140,000 paid to Stormy Daniels, which is a misdemeanor under state law, is going to be turned into, or argued, it is going to be argued that this breaches federal campaign finance laws, because actually the $140,000 was like a payment in kind to Donald Trump's election campaign. But the case, even though it's a prosecutorial stretch, obviously does make the sort of broader moral case against Donald Trump. You know, the details of the case reveal him yet again to be unfit for higher office.
You wrote in a column this week that the weakness of the case that Bragg is bringing, based on what we know so far, is kind of the point. What did you mean by that?
Well, the Democrats, in attacking President Trump in the multifarious ways in which they have, you know, win whether they succeed in toppling him or whether they fail. Obviously, someone like Bragg would love to be the fellow who took Donald Trump's scalp, as Adam Schiff did in the research and investigation into supposed collusion with Russia. Certainly, Democrats would love to knock Trump out. But they know that if they fail, they also win, because what they are doing is raising his profile. They are tarring the Republican Party by their proximity to him and the Republican Party's apparent inability to get rid of him. And they are actually splitting the Republican Party, because there are a lot of Republicans who will not vote for Trump if he were the presidential nominee, and of course a lot of Republicans who would. That makes it that much more likely that you know, President Biden would beat him. So it's really a no-lose situation for the Democrats to make as much of Donald Trump as they can, whether that's by prosecution or by just talking about him all the time.
Well, Hugo, thank you so much for being here today. You can get more writing from Hugo and the rest of the commentary team at WashingtonExaminer.com.